Just last weekend, K-Pop Demon Hunters released in theaters and for one weekend only as a sing-along event. I've actually seen this movie 7 times, and I went to the theater to see it for the 7th time with my friends at the sing-along event, and so I felt like after I'd seen it in the theater, it would be the proper time to finally review K-Pop Demon Hunters. Hi, my name is Nathan, and I like to talk about a lot of movies on this channel. If you're new here, down below in the comment section, share what you thought of K-Pop Demon Hunters over on my channel. I have more content like this. Check those out once this video is over. And if you enjoyed this video, click the like button, be sure to subscribe because that really does help a lot. And having said all of that, I will just jump straight into it. Let me actually start off a little bit different. Let's start off with a background of my experience with this particular film. Like I mentioned, I don't remember even if I mentioned this at the beginning of the video, I have seen this movie 7 times now. 2 of those times were just in the past week because I just began my junior year, and so I had math homework at some point and for calculus, and then I did my math homework while watching K-Pop Demon Hunters for the 5th or 6th time, and this was just the 7th time that I watched it. I invited a bunch of, not I invited, but more like my mom invited a bunch of my friends to come with me and watch this movie, and it was in a pretty big theater also up in Irvine because I live in California. And so the context in which that I saw this movie for the first time is that I had never even heard of this movie. It was not my most anticipated on the list. I had not seen a single trailer for it. I had not seen any ads for it. There was like no marketing whatsoever for this movie. But then I had a friend come up to me and tell, hey, did you watch this movie K-Pop Demon Hunters? And this was shortly after the movie just came out. And I'm just like, K-Pop Demon Hunters? What are you talking about? Like, I don't listen to K-Pop. And to provide a little bit of context, I do not listen to K-Pop. I have never listened to K-Pop outside of this movie. And a movie's title, K-Pop Demon Hunters, is not appealing to me whenever I first heard about this film. But then 3 or 4 different people told me to watch this movie shortly after I had heard about it for the first time from my friend. So about 2-3 days later, I just turned it on Netflix. It was the beginning of July, I think. And yeah, like, we'll just get into our review from there. It also is important to note that I did just see this movie again in the theater yesterday. And the theater was packed with people who love this movie. And so I had one of the best theater experiences I've ever had. Maybe even the best theater experience I've ever had. There was screaming, shouting, singing, all of that. And as somebody that likes musicals, that theater was just right up my alley. And also, if you thought my Spider-Man No Way Home theater experience this was above that theater experience. So it's important to note that going into this video. I'll probably edit in a couple of clips because I was recording a lot in the theater. So I'll probably edit in a bunch of things in this video where I show you guys what the theater was like because it was pretty wild in there. But how is the movie itself? Let's just get straight into it with the review. And I'm just going to do this as a review because I don't think I have any negatives about this movie. Not to say that it's perfect or anything like that, or it's a 10 out of 10 or anything, because it just came out. It needs the time for me to actually like it more and more and more. But I can say every single time that I've rewatched this movie, I just like it more and more and more and more. And it's probably the most surprising movie of the past 10 years. I'm somebody that likes a lot of musicals, and there are only very few, or actually 2, special musicals to me. And when I say that, I mean movies that just stick with me, and the songs just stick with me, and I enjoy every single song in the soundtrack. There used to be only one of those. That movie was The Greatest Showman, 2017. And I was really hyped about that musical whenever I first watched it back when it came out. And then here we are 8 years later, and I'm still hyped about that movie. I still rewatch it all the time. And K-Pop Demon Hunters somehow is on that level. I have not been this excited about a musical movie since Greatest Showman back in 2017. And it's just such a fascinating cultural phenomenon. I don't understand how they made a movie this good and especially this popular, and it only released on Netflix. Like, they didn't have much faith in it, which I can see the rationale behind that, to be fair, because a movie with the title K-Pop Demon Hunters isn't the most appealing, like I said. I was not excited going into this movie, but it's just such a fascinating cultural phenomenon that as soon as it dropped on Netflix, everybody watched it. It is now the number one streamed movie on Netflix. I don't know if this one beat Red Notice yet. It might have, but this is one of the top 2 most popular movies on Netflix, to the best of my knowledge, and rightfully so, because they made a really solid, good movie. And when you're talking about a musical, of course, you have to talk about the songs in it, and the songs in this movie are just unbelievably catchy, memorable, and they stay with you in a way that I haven't seen a musical do since Greatest Showman back in 2017. Even a movie like Wicked last year. I put Wicked in my top 3 of the year last year. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really like musicals, and so that one was kind of up my alley. But there were a couple of songs in there that I wasn't totally crazy about, so I didn't go full on bananas for Wicked. K-Pop Demon Hunters, which I can't believe I'm saying those words out of my mouth. K-Pop Demon Hunters is probably the best movie I've seen this year, and it made me excited just about movies in general again. We'll get to that a little bit later, but at the core of that is like a bunch of catchy songs, music. Golden, the song by Huntrix in the film, has been the number 1 song that's been streamed for 2 months now, since it came out. And the hype is still there. Like, it's a movie that stays with you, and you just put the songs on repeat. But aside from the songs itself, which are great because it's a musical, the movie actually has more depth than at face value. When I first watched this movie, I didn't know anything about it. I had not heard a single song. I'd only seen the poster on Netflix. That's pretty much it. And when watching this movie, the characters actually do have emotional depth to them. It's not just a kids movie with baseline humor. It's an actual film with characters, themes, journeys that are very clear and apparent all throughout the runtime of this movie, where you get our lead character Rumi, who is very broken over feeling like a mistake and not accepting herself as a flawed person. Even that parallels with our other character Genu, who kind of wants to erase his past because he can't accept what he did before, and he can't forgive himself and accept that he is a flawed person also. And it has an ongoing theme going out through it about our flaws and how we hide our emotions and fears and are afraid to let our demons out. And it's a journey. It's the right journey for the right characters about self-acceptance. And it tackles those themes in a way that can be accessible to children, to people like me who are in high school, and also to adults. I tell you, when I saw this movie in the theater, there was a wide variety of children, adults, and everything. And the animation here is simply just stunning. And this is kind of been Sony's trademark animation for the past few years, with Mitchell's vs. Machines and Spider-Verse being the obvious Sony animation movies to compare this movie's animation style to. But it's so fascinating how Sony Animation has made such a massive comeback over the past few years, as back 2017 and before, nobody cared about Sony Animation. Nobody was excited for any of the Sony Animation movies. And the reason for that is because almost none of them were good. I saw the Emoji Movie in the theater when it came out. Didn't think much of it because I was like 7. And I didn't care for it all that much. It's a terrible movie, I know. But like when I was a kid, I didn't think much of it. And everything Emoji Movie before that, almost none of Sony's movies were good. They did a bunch of Smurfs movies and all. They were kind of known for being the very kiddish studio. They were kind of like Illumination back before 2018. Then they released Spider-Verse, and Spider-Verse kind of changes the trajectory of their animation, where they have a specific style of animation, the one included in this movie, that is just, it's visually appealing, it's new, it's fresh, it's different. Contrast that to, we just got a bunch of Disney movies like Moana, Elio. I don't particularly think Elio is a bad movie. I just don't think it's all that memorable either. Moana 2 I thought was a big letdown. And the animation styles on those movies kind of are a little bit bland. Disney's animation style is no longer as visually appealing as they were, 15, 20 years back. Sony found a way to make an animation style that was fresh, that was new, visually appealing with Spider-Verse, and is still appealing 7 years later, and still looks fresh, new, and interesting. It's just pretty to look at, instead of this bland slop that other studios do. And this is what animation should be doing. They should be finding new ways to animate things that are still visually just appealing. They stand out in your brain. And all the characters are charming, all the songs are charming. It just is a movie that is well crafted from beginning to end. But also, as much as I liked this movie already before I saw it in the theater, when I saw it in the theater, it's very important to note that the theater was very loud. Everybody was being very loud. But it's a movie that ultimately I was able to firsthand see it bring people together in a way that I missed about movies pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, there were a bunch of movies that came out, MCU movies in particular, that were releasing in theaters that are kind of like what everybody wanted to talk about and were event films. And watching this movie in the theater kind of reminded me of that, if that makes sense, where it brought people together. While I was watching it in the theater, there were two little girls in my line of sight that had the Rumi hairstyle. There was another guy with the Saja Boy demon costume at the end. It was just an amazing experience. Like, I have no words for it. Everybody was being loud. There was a round of applause every time one of the musical numbers began or ended. By far, what it sounds like, the final musical number in the movie, had the biggest audience reaction. We ran down the stairs. I sat middle to back of the theater. We ran down the stairs, and up in the front of the theater, there were like 100 people right in front of the screen singing their heart out. And then when the big moment with Genu happens, everybody was screaming, shouting all over the place. It was unbelievable. It's something that truly was an experience, and made me excited about going to theaters, made me excited about movies in a way that reminded me of like my childhood love for films and going to the theater. This movie reminded me of that, and I felt like a child in elementary school again, with that, where you could just be free in a theater in a way that it was unbelievable. It's something that truly needs to be experienced. I can't even put into words for it, because this theater was more hyped than like Spider-Man No Way Home and Avengers Endgame's theater. It was more than that. And it brought people together. It united people in a way that I missed back then. And so that's when you have a movie that's very special. You drop it on a streaming service, you don't think it's going to do all that well. Everybody loves it. Everybody watches it. They drop it in theaters, and everybody's just singing their hearts out in the theater. And it brought a bunch of people together in such a way that I absolutely love that we have a movie this year that was able to do that. And I love that something so weird like this, and I love that we got a new original story that everybody's excited for. Like, this is what we need more of. More original stories. Not like sequels to films from the 70s and 80s or anything like that. Actual original ideas that might not work on paper, but they work in here. Even a small little detail in the movie, where there's a scene where a bunch of boys walk in an alley, and The girls think they're so hot and popcorn starts going out of their eyes. Weird things like that that shouldn't work. But this movie made it work. It was such a weird, quirky concept that... And I want more original movies like this. That just take a big swing and it pays off. So overall, I'll give this movie an A. This is probably my favorite movie of the year that I've seen thus far. But down below in the comment section, share what you thought of the film. Over on my channel, there's more content like this. Check those out right now. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end. I'll see you in the next one.